Your hair fixed, asshole.
It's we have a hard time hearing you. Your
All
microphone
right, hold
is
on.
Smith. There you
You hear me
go.
better?
There.
There we go. Now we hear you loud and clear, man.
Did you get your hair color or
Carrick, her taking
haircut?
care. No, actually, my sister took care of that problem. It looks 20 times better than it did before.
Well, just go to let your sister do it every time. Then just don't go to people and do it.
That's
Just
what she,
let
s-
her.
you know,
You know what
that's
I'm
what
saying?
she said. That's what she suggested.
So how does it look now? Let's see.
Well,
I want
let's
to see.
well, let me see. I'll send you a photo in a couple of seconds there.
All
Give me a
right.
minute there. I'm going to get some articles up there for the movie that we're going to be talking about, which of course is Xanadu from 1980.
Never heard of it.
Oh
I was
man,
going to
Never,
ask you if you'd
never
seen
heard
it.
of it. Never heard of it.
yeah.
Sorry.
Basically it was a
Xanadu.
musical. It
Isn't that a
start.
brush song too?
Yes, it is
Well,
definitely,
yeah,
absolutely,
but
How
it
do you
had
spell that?
nothing to do with the
Zan
movie.
absolutely.
Xanadu.
Which is
A,
important. Go ahead.
let me spell this for him. Xanadu.
Yep.
Okay, Olivia Newton. So there is all right. Olivia
Yes.
Newton-John.
Yep.
Features music by Olivia Newton-John. ELO.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
It's a
Absolutely.
movie we mentioned a few times that the movie itself sucks rocks, but the soundtrack is good.
Absolutely. There. I mean, this. This is one of those rare moments there, and
Well, that's something too. Real quick,
mhm,
Brown. Nowadays, I mean, I don't know about the year 2000s,
mhm,
or maybe I don't even know, but even about the 90s. But
mhm.
there's really not soundtracks in the newer movies these days, is there? If you think
Well,
about it.
I know that the '90s, the main soundtracks had to have extra tracks on it, you noting all the music from and music inspired by the movie Batman and Robin,
Like,
or
what's the newest movie you've seen in recent years? No, I'm not talking about the movie theater, just a new movie in general.
well, the only thing I've been watching, only thing I watched on YouTube was since they have movies on there divided into this different parts here, was Man of Steel from 2013. Badass movie there.
So
Badass.
did that one have did it have a soundtrack to it, like songs
Yes.
with it, or
No, it was actually musical scores done by Hans Zimmer that was mentioned on Joe Cronin's show a few times there, including JB. He mentioned how good Zimmer was at music compositions for movies there.
Zimmerman?
Yeah.
But the only soundtrack I remember recent, and it's not really recent, but it's in the last 20 years, is and I didn't even I'm not into these type of movies at all, but that I think it was the Iron Man soundtrack had a bunch of ACDC stuff on it.
Yes, I remember
Am I
Iron
right?
Man
Yeah.
2. Yes, I remember that was, that was big at that time there. I remember the first Avengers movie before Iron Man shows up. We would hear in the background "Shoot the Thrill" by AC/DC playing, and then boom, there he is.
Well, we'll quick. It's not really movie news, but more of the music news that's
Yep.
tying into yesterday's news.
Yeah, the Power Trip
I
Festival.
no, I got some. Well, no, on
Go
the
ahead.
Ace Frehley thing, I got some confirmation that
Yeah.
Eddie Trunk is not about the drama. Basically, is what he was saying on today's show because
Hmm.
Eddie Trunk went live today. He was like, I mean, obviously, like tons of people are talking about it. It's all over online.
I know. Yeah.
We have over 2,000 views on that clip on the channel, the
Yeah.
Hockey 360 channel.
Yeah.
But the issue, well, basically, what Eddie Truck was saying today is he's not about that. Like, he's not about the drama. Like, he's been offered throughout
Rock,
the years. He's
rock and
been
roll.
offered, hello, he's been offered throughout the years tons of chances to interview people to spill dirt on others, blah blah blah, and he always turns that down because he says
Hmm.
he's not, he's not about that. He doesn't, he doesn't like that stuff. But he's not gonna turn down Ace if he does want to come back next week. But he did talk to Ace privately off air and said, hey man, try to think this out type thing, blah blah blah. Because it will. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, I'm thinking it might be, some type of Me Too movement stuff,
Hmm.
perhaps. You know what I'm saying? But
exposing some other stuff that Gene and Paul have been keeping way secret for years.
maybe they're gay together or something. You know what I'm
Oh, yeah.
saying?
Maybe.
I mean,
Who
it's got to
knows?
be something like, shocking or something. It's got to be.
Yeah.
But like that's what he was saying. So like, but then on the other hand, Eddie Trunk said, he's not gonna not have Ace on if he wants to come back on next week.
All right.
And he says his door's open to all the Kiss members to call in. But
Yep.
uh,
Ooh.
interesting news there. But into the movie Xanadu.
Well, let me say this about the
Go
Ace
ahead.
Frehley thing, and but now, yeah, some people may like jump down Ace's throat for issuing that statement yesterday, but however, you got to look at how many times Gene and Paul had came down hard on Ace. I mean, look how many years they turned Ace down. Look how many times they had turned Peter down. I mean, gotta remember, yeah, we all know Ace was a heavy drinker back in the day. We also know Peter Criss was difficult many times and a druggie back in the day there. But you got to keep in mind that today those guys are sober, they're clean, they straighten out their act, But I guess what it is that I guess Gene and Paul don't want to put up with the drama that
Yes.
many times Peter and Ace had brought into the Kiss camp from the 70s to the reunion years. I mean, there are many
I don't know what
reports.
drama. What are you talking about drama? Because
Well,
whose side are you on first of all? Because
I'm
I'm
not.
on the
I'm not.
Ace.
I'm not.
I'm
I'm
on the
not.
Ace. I'm on the Ace side of things.
I'm not on either one of those sides. I'm gonna give it from both perspectives. I mean, say if you let me give you a s- let me give you a perfect example. Me and this one particular person used to hang out all the time, do shows. But this person would talk about drama, negativity, to the point where you just can't take it no more. You say I gotta depart from this person because this person is gonna bring me down, my channel and everything else. And we know that person. We'll just call it erotic hippo for short. There, you know who I'm talking about there,
You used to do
because
shows with
that.
her back in the day.
Yeah, I know, but remember the last show I did with her was back in a couple years back, and all she sounded hammered or something like that. Ken even pointed that out, but she would just complain about everything, little thing that was
Wasn't that like
out
your?
there.
That was like your. That was like your online girlfriend, right? Like y'all had.
Not really there. It was a broadcast partner at the time. So
Ah,
but at the same time, it was me, Bailey Smoke Rudolph, and a couple other people on that show there. But Kitty would just go off about complain about. She basically was drama herself. There were
yes.
many times where she would go off on you. Everybody would encourage her to fight back, but she wouldn't. She'd be like, "I don't want no drama." It's like, come on, that's allowing the enemy to win, or something like that. That's letting them have their way with you. It's like she doesn't know how to fight back. She's complaining about everything. She one time even complained about Ken. You
Well, we
know,
don't have to go down the. We don't have to. Come on. But anyways,
but you
we get
see
what you're
my
saying.
point. Where
Yes.
Gina
But
and
real
Paul are coming
quick.
from.
Well, Paul and Gene are assholes.
Hmm.
Okay. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Like
true. There.
they should have never brought the two replacements in with the same makeup.
I
Number
know
one.
that to me is
It's
a
horseshit.
bullshit. Exactly, because there's only one spaceman. His name is Ace. There's only one Catman. His name is Peter. And and you even pointed this out a couple years ago on our
I mean, at
old
least do
show.
what like Vinnie Vincent did, and what's
Hmm.
the one drummer that passed?
Eric Carr.
Eric Carr. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, the idea is that Khalees, I mean, I guess what it is that people, in the eyes of Gene and Paul, they want the
Mark
spaceman
Wahlberg.
demon. Yep, Mark Wahlberg. Oh,
Mark Wahlberg.
oh, who? Oh, never mind.
What is it?
Well,
Well, he's at the Astros game. Astros
oh,
is on
nice.
ESPN.
Oh, okay, I see there. But anyways, I don't like the fact that they're having two people replace Ace and Peter's characters and myself there. It's to me, it's just like, it's a dumb thing to do. But then again, they're trying to do what the fans expect them to be. the four guys with the makeup, the Catman, Demon, Spaceman, and the Star Child. That's what they expect from Kiss, you know? And they certainly don't want the Spaceman, Foxman, Demon, Ankh Warrior. That's for sure there. So, to me,
Like, don't you think? Well, I mean, and the bigger thing is like their final. I mean, really, they did announce
Mhm.
four extra shows for their thing in Fort Worth.
Yep.
One of them is at Fort Worth, but I've already seen Kiss
Yeah.
like 3 times, and one of them was like pretty much like our view of Judas Priest, like front row like that.
Nice.
So I can never beat that. You
That's
know what I'm
true there,
saying?
yeah.
And it is fun to see him and stuff, like the spectacle, the stage.
Yep.
But remember, I saw that tribute band,
Yes. I
Kiss
remember,
tribute band.
yes.
Like it really is a tribute band. I mean, that one really is pretty much just like because Paul Stanley's singing's horrible nowadays. You
I
know,
know,
he's
yeah.
using backing tracks. They're saying he's using
Yeah.
backing tracks, and it's just.
Which is atrocity
I
on
mean,
its
but
own
when
self.
you like in the perfect world, right? You want to see, you want to see Ace and Pete. You want to see Ace, yeah, the original Ace and Peter come up there at
Absolutely.
least
We all do. We all
Madison
do, man.
Square Garden, at least for a couple songs, Detroit Rock City and Rock and Roll All Night, or even
Absolutely.
Beth and Rock and Roll All Night.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
this is sickening, and they're just gonna go off like that. And I mean, they're gonna have a designated Kiss tribute band that's official. Like they're talking plans, you know, that's eventually what's going to happen. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yeah.
They might do a residency in Las Vegas, like some bands do. But as for like touring, they're going to be done for real
No, I see there.
before this year, 2023. I think. Go ahead, Arn. You saw them in.
I saw them on their final tour before their final tour
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah. 99. That's when they announced that they were going to be done touring as they proclaimed to be.
Yeah, I went and saw them, well, in Fort Worth, ironically. And Ted Nugent was with them. So that was pretty cool for me
That's good to know.
because I was a Ted Nugent fan.
Yeah.
And his show is a spectacle to behold. Who?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's true.
he was at the Trump rally last week. Ted Nugent, he went up there and like, you know, when they had the Trump rallies, he had like all these speakers come up, right? And they had Ted Nugent come up there with the guitar.
Yep.
You know, he said his outlandish things or whatever, and not outlandish, but you know, says political things. But bro, he was like, he had the guitar though, so he like went into the stranglehold lick, dun, 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 dun. Like bro, he's jamming up there, like it sounded great, crunchy and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
I was like, dang, he's up there.
But you know what? He also did that for a rally for Trump back before when he was first running for president. I guess it was
Yes.
at a place called Freedom Hill, when it was still called Freedom Hill back in Sterling Heights, Michigan. He gave a speech up there, and he did detail that his house back in Michigan was foreclosed. And apparently what it was is because a lot of houses were getting foreclosed during the Obama years, you know? So that was one of the prime reasons why Obama lost. Well, actually, Obama didn't run again. He knew his 2 terms was up, and that's how much a president is allowed in the Oval Office there. But, you know, it was best that Trump got in the office instead of Hillary Clinton, because God knows what Hillary would have done there. Good. But,
Thank you.
yeah, exactly. You know, and oh gosh, what a whiny bitch she turned out to be after her loss. Jeez, I can't
Well,
really go into more.
this isn't a political show.
I know,
You need to
yes.
stay away from that.
We'll save that for when for some time when the time comes. But on to the main subject of this movie, Xanadu. Came out in 1980. It starred Olivia Newton-John. It was a musical. It's also starred Michael Beck, who a year before was in The Warriors, which became a massive cult classic. It featured music from Olivia and the Electric Light Orchestra. And basically, it was, I guess, it was supposed to be like, it was a new decade we had just reached, you know. So basically, I guess at that time, the idea of the Hollywood musicals was kind of like a running dead in the water, I guess you could say, because another musical that came out a couple years later called Grease 2, featuring Michelle Pfeiffer. That's where we first heard of her from that movie there. And that tanked just as well there, unfortunately. Now, Xanadu, it was supposed to have been a big box office. It was supposed to be predicted to be a big hit, but it ended up going the other route. And I have this article up here from, what's it called? It's called Le Buse Le Blog, and it's a detailed why the movie flopped. Now, the story behind the movie is that, a guy named Scott, who played by Michael Beck, he designs album covers. And basically, he runs to this muse, who goes by the name of Kira, but she has an alias name. Her father, along with her 8 other sisters, are the daughters of Zeus, the Greek god. And I guess here the purpose was to bring Xanadu, according to which is something from Greek mythology, into the modern world there, and they do it through a nightclub. And one of the guys involved is a clarinet player, played by Gene Kelly, who wants to open up a club just as well there. Now, of course, the couple have that romantic moments, the revelation of her true identity, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff there. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to go by this article here, why this movie tanked like it did here. Now, let me find this here. The movie had a ton of other things, an entire scene where a guy is painted as being sympathetic because he didn't like people laughing at him, only for the movie itself to ask people to laugh at him. Later on, they just couldn't stop humming to "This Is Me," and that's hardly the only example. Now, the revival of the My Fair Lady got a lot of press because people seem to agree that, looking back, Eliza Doolittle didn't really get that much agency, and this new revival changed all that. But throughout the years, people didn't really care how much agency Doolittle got, because again, they liked the songs. The new Oklahoma revival got some press, and of course, by the way, there was a Grease on Broadway. That's where the movie originally came from. And I guess for a while there was a Xanadu on Broadway with the same type of story and same kind of scenario there. Now, the musical Xanadu was an exception to the rule. Now, according to the article here, it says Xanadu doesn't really have any problematic messages that I could think of, but it had catchy songs, which most people agreed with, as the soundtrack was a massive big hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Yet, at the time of its release, people did not forgive the movie's flaws. It actually did make its money back in the long run, but it didn't make as much as it was expected to. The movie was so critically hated, it basically ended the career of its director, Robert Greenwald. It also ended the career of actor Michael Beck, who, as we stated, was the star of the movie The Warriors a year previously. Gene Kelly, he was a film legend. His career didn't really go well after that movie. He only starred in a couple Love Boat episodes and a couple miniseries afterwards. That was about it. Now, Olivia Newton-John herself, she would have massive success with the following year with that song Physical and the album of the same name. She had a massive world tour that came about as a result. But her film career, the only time we ever saw her film again afterwards was a '83 movie with John Travolta once again called Two of a Kind. And that was about it in terms of her being in the movies. So why is this movie the exception? why of all musicals, was this the one that people were like, yeah, we like your songs, but we don't like you? Why was this movie desperate despite making its money back? Considered a movie bad enough to kill the careers of some of the people involved, despite the success of the soundtrack? Well, the article states here that the movie was just too awful. As in, what would happen if Ed Wood made a musical bad? The plot was really incoherent. The acting of Michael Beck was terrible. Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly's acting is only so much better. The lighting was dull. The special effects were awful, even by 1980 standards. But you also got to remember, The Empire Strikes Back, which also came out that year, had special effects, but it was way better than what was featured in Xanadu. That's for shizzle. The set looks like they were like made out of cardboard, and the top of all that, as good as the songs were, the movie places them in the strangest of all situations of all time, which kind of makes the one thing people came to see this movie for, the music, hard to enjoy despite the quality of the songs themselves. And there were a lot of interesting good songs on that soundtrack. The song Magic, which became a big hit on the charts there and on radio. The title cut featuring Olivia Newton-John with the Electric Orchestra sharing a position there. The song, Suddenly, which featured her and Cliff Richard singing together. There was a thing that featuring her and Gene Kelly, I guess it's called Whenever You're Away From Me. The track Dancing was kind of like a mixture of bebop, 1940s doo-wop, mixed in with some 80s hard rock by the Tubes. They were featured in the movie there, by the way. Suspended Time is a pretty much good ballad. The songs that the ELO put it out, like I'm Alive, Don't Walk Away, The Fall. Those are good songs as well there. But the storyline it just really wasn't that good. It just really wasn't that up to par. I mean, now the article says here, continues, sure, you could point out, that Moulin Rouge, a very popular musical, was also weird, but that movie wasn't successful neither. It barely made back its budget in the States. It was only successful because Europe loves that kind of style of musicals, and the worldwide gross upped its box office intake. But in all, Moulin Rouge was really a movie that just appealed to a niche group of people in the States, which is why it didn't make that much money, but it made a lot more in Europe. Musical, and you gotta remember, around that time, the musical was kind of dying out a little bit there when you think about it. I mean, I used to watch Disney movies as a kid, but the one I remember seeing a couple years before that, Pete's Dragon, which was a musical that featured Helen Reddy, that didn't jar my interest. I thought it was, oh god, is this movie going to end pretty soon? I think remember it was about 9 or 10 or 12 years old when that flick came out there. Me and my mom, sister, and my dad, we all saw that together, and I was like, oh god, that was crap. Thank goodness, go ahead.
I got to see it as an adult because my daughter wanted to go see it, so we went and took her there, and it was like, she even left the movie going, that was dumb.
Now keep in mind, Disney did the right thing by retelling that story in the new movie there. I guess the way it was supposed to be portrayed there. It was a totally different version, not a musical, thank goodness. But it could at least have stuck to that formula. It could at least stuck to that. But instead of musical, but you gotta remember at the time Disney's like, everything's gonna be musical, like all the animated movies from the 1990s. Everything's got to be animated, despite what kind of storyline it is, whether it's Pocahontas or The Hunchback of Notre Dame. or The Lion King, or Beauty and the Beast. Like, jeez, give us a break. But then again, Disney has been known to shove a lot of things down our throats. Like the '90s Disney animated movies were like all over the joint, year after year after year. Now, Xanadu, it was such a weird movie that while it gained a bit of a cult following, it's considered a cult classic nowadays. It still remains a movie that, at its best, a niche fan base. It just lacked the storytelling coherency or production value necessary to get people to stay and listen to the songs. They already probably had the albums at that time, back in the 80s there, which later, of course, went into CDs. But why bother buying a ticket just to hear them again when the movie itself was too weird for them enough to turn them off?
I don't remember for sure. Was the guy trying to build a club or a roller skating rink?
I think it was kind of like a roller. I think it meant a roller skating rink. I think may have been that.
That's how I remembered it.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of roller skating throughout the towards the end of that movie there. And of course, that's when we see Olivia dancing with her 9 sisters, as Kira, the muse, doing all these variety of rock country songs, and they zoom into her with this luscious, interesting outfit on, singing the Xanadu song, then fading into time, disappearing, And at the end of the movie there, like, can I give you a drink? And Michael Beck is like, look it up. It sees it's Kira. They hold up, and they start to talk, and then the movie ends right then and there. No indication if they are still together. She goes back to where she's supposed to be.
Apparently, it wasn't Kira. It was a look-alike, supposedly, because Kira's gone.
Kira or something like that. I know, because I remember seeing the movie on Showtime cable network back when we first started getting cable at that time there.
And we don't want to discourage you. You need to see the movie.
Yeah.
And get it in for yourself, just what kind of movie it was.
Yeah, exactly. Now the soundtrack. Go ahead, Wyatt.
It was worthy of being a movie that was skewered on either Mystery Science Theater 3000 or Riff Tracks.
Exactly.
It definitely fit their mold.
Exactly, and that's not to keep in mind. There was another bad musical movie that came out, I believe, that same year, featuring the Village People. Can't Stop the Music. That had the former Bruce Jenner in the starring role. Believe it or not. And
that already sounds bad.
Exactly, it was but in Europe, like Xanadu, the movie was an astounding success. But here it was caca. Total caca. Now, the soundtrack, keep in mind, did the exact opposite. Magic went to number 1. Her duet with Cliff Richard suddenly was a big hit. The songs from ELO, Xanadu, I'm Alive, all over the world. Those are big radio hits there. I mean, they were played nonstop, throughout the whole year there, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's, it's kind of sad. There is a big movie. There's a big rule in that. When a movie you come out with tanks miserably, chances are your career may never get off the ground. It happened to Michael Beck. It happened to the director of the movie. And like I said, Gene Kelly, his career was never really the same afterwards. And this guy was a film legend. And plus, and when you're a successful actor, and when you come out with a bad, horrible movie, it's going to take a long time to recover from that. I mean, like for instance, like the movie that Ben Affleck did with Jennifer Lopez, Gigli, or what's it called there? People saying it was terrible, it was horrible. There was another movie back in '86 called Shanghai Surprise, featuring Madonna and her husband at the time, Sean Penn. It was produced by George Harrison and his production company, Handmade Films. Now, I don't know, and some say that Handmade Films didn't really recover that much after that movie went like it did. And the Handmade Films was had a successful with the Good Long Friday with Bob Hoskins. That's when we first heard of this iconic actor. And I think Ark said it best, like when they find out that you started this bomb movie, they're like, I don't think so, bro. So,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, now there was a Broadway musical on the about Xanadu just as well. Now I can understand that a musical being of course being a musical, and so obviously the chances are being on Broadway was obviously a spectacle. Now I'm going to go to another thing called from the Telegraph that's going to be popping up pretty soon. And it said how Olivia Newton-John's Hollywood dream almost ended as well because of this flick. Now here's what it said: when her death was announced on August 8th last year, it did not take long to realize that she had died. Incoincidence would have had it. On the something popped up here. I'm not trying no Telegraph for 3 months, mofos. All right, there. I will not continue to read this article. I'm going to read. Continue to read this article. Try the Telegraph for 3 months. Screw you and the horse that gave birth to you. I ain't going to do that. Mm-hmm. Now, as coincidence would have it, it was on the 42th anniversary, 42th, of the movie Xanadu, where appeared in cinemas in 1980. It was regarded one of the most notorious artistic and financial flops in the history of Hollywood. Well, like I said, there was others like Heaven's Gate, which your Ark and I covered. There was also the movie that I mentioned, Jiggly, and a couple others. Waterworld, I don't know if that was turned out to be a success or not, because people were predicting that movie was going to be like some of that there. But basically, it was a mad, incoherent mishmash of high-blown artistic aspirations with an incurious selection of blah, blah, blah music.
Right.
Exactly there. And basically, when I said I'm got to get rid of the Telegraph, because I'm not interested in reading the Telegraph for 3 months. Thank you very much there. Now, at the time, roller skates were the thing at that time. So obviously, why much of the roller skating was done towards the end of the movie was the main thing about the movie there. The roller skates were the thing at that time there. Of course, later on, scooters, bicycles were, of course, bicycles were always around there. No question about that, but roller skates were the thing around those times there, around the 70s and 80s there, early 80s. I remember there were a few roller rinks around the area. Back where we live in Michigan there. My sister and I often went there a few times. Well, she went more than I did. Now, let me find out how much money did the Xanadu flick here. It made about $23 million in U.S. dollars that year. And apparently, I guess that wasn't enough, I guess. Now, the movie that she did afterwards with John Travolta, Two of a Kind that I mentioned, that did a little bit better. It made $23.65 million. Whereas Grease, which was started a couple years prior, it made about $396.3 million in U.S. dollars currency. That movie was a big-ass hit for Paramount. And I guess the idea of this movie, Xanadu, was to continue the Hollywood musical trade. But unfortunately, the storylines, the cheesy effects, and everything else, along with the new decade that we just merged into, It just didn't work, you know. Only thing that was saved was the soundtrack.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely there. Which I guess you could say it helped save Olivia's ass.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you know, Olivia, as we stated, would have a bigger success with the song and the album physical and the tour that would emerge a year later after the success of that album. You know, and that's you know, she would go on and blah 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 and everything else there. Now, Xanadu, as we all know, would later become a cult classic. There, it would have a find a cult audience like say the Warriors, Pulp Fiction, and of course, you know, movies like The Song Remains the Same, as well as you know Andy Warhol's interpretations of Frankenstein and Dracula. You know,
And the
Rocky Horror, definitely for shizzle about that.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually fixing to name that.
Yep, exactly. I think it's safe to say that Rocky Horror was the ultimate cult classic to everything else there, because look how long the longevity of that movie had lasted throughout with its fans and such there. Now here's another interesting part. One of the actors in that movie was a man named Matt Latanzi. He played the role of some guy named a young Danny McGuire. And Latanzi would later go on a couple years later to be Olivia's boyfriend, and then later husband, and then later father of their daughter Chloe. But I guess the marriage fell apart after some stress was put on the marriage by Olivia's breast cancer situation back in 1992.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that kind of issue will put a strain on any relationship, no doubt about that. Now, Livia, no longer with us, unfortunately, as we stated, she passed away from the Big Evil Sea last year. You know, people are gonna, no doubt, you know, people were running to the DVDs, you know, to check out the Let's Get Physical video special, as well as Xanadu and as well as Grease. No doubt, you know, no doubt they were running to the stores to buy the DVDs or rent them, obviously, you know, to pay in homage of this talented singer and actress there. You know, so, but I'm gonna keep quiet for a second. I'll let Ark and YR talk about this movie
I
there.
think we are left.
YR left?
I think
What?
so.
Oh, let me
Oh.
see. Let me. Oh, he's still here. I guess he didn't leave. What the heck, man? Oh, wow.
Well, he said he'd never even heard of the movie.
Well, definitely, Wire, if you're listening, bro, definitely check it out for yourself, and then definitely come back to us to let us know it was decent in anyone's eyes here. You know. Yeah. Now, what do you think? What do you think, in your opinion, Art, could have you if you was a film producer or a screenwriter? What would you have done to make that movie better?
Not make it in the first place.
Oh, dude. Oh man, that was
That's my reaction.
yeah, that was. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, like, jeez, you know, it's. I guess the new wave scene was also mixing in into the culture at that time just as well, and I guess some of that was being interpreted in that one segment with the Tubes and the Gene Kelly and all that. You have to look at that. If I'm sure it's here on YouTube.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
Absolutely there, because I know they have the movie in 10 parts, I guess, if I'm correct, you know, in sections here and there. See this movie, blah, blah, rent it out here on YouTube for a percentage of your wallet there. And of course, you know, I remember a couple years back, there was a thing on YouTube featuring all the music from the movie there that didn't make it on the soundtrack and was in sequence to the time into the movie themselves. I was
Yeah,
looking,
there were
yeah.
Yeah, there were a few songs that, like you said, were in the movie
Hmm.
but didn't make the soundtrack.
Exactly. And I tried to find that particular clip hours earlier, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to keep searching and searching and searching because, it's got to be here somewhere, unless it was taken down for copyright reasons. I do not know. But we can definitely talk about the music on there. Now, we mentioned the song Suddenly, which features her and Cliff Richard, who I guess is still around. Let's not forget that Olivia started her career on Cliff Richard's British program there.
Right.
Yes, and let's not forget I'm Alive by the Electric Light Orchestra. You know, um, and of course, there are other songs like Don't Walk Away, which is a pretty good song there. Now, some of those songs by Jeff Lynne actually, let me rephrase that. Songs like I'm Alive, Don't Walk Away, those are, let's see here. Let me go on this credit line. Now, remember, all the songs by ELO were, of course, written by Jeff Lynne there. And it says here the people who sang the songs there. Of course, for ELO, the singers and backup singers are Jeff Lynne and Kelly Cronat, the bass player.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Whenever You're Away from Me from Gene and Olivia, that was a 1940s musical. I guess the idea was trying to make a kind of mixture of both the 1940s and the modern time era. And yes, it was a low roller skating disco there with the kind of something like that. And I guess now the Muses. I want to look at the Muses, Zeus and the Muses, the Nine Sisters. Nine Sisters. Let's see here. Xanadu there. Let me look at this here. Okay. Now, Nine Sisters, believe it or not, featuring, of course, there was also a name of a project, an album cover that, Sonny, played by Michael Beck, was designing at that time. And I guess that image of that album cover image has now made it onto a poster. It's also available on a T-shirt there. It's like it's funny that certain images from the past can now make it onto T-shirts nowadays when you think about it there. But the question is the copyright issue comes to mind. I guess you got to have a copyright of this for the movie production or that movie studio to have it printed there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, of course, the musical. Let me look at the musical here. The musical. There we go. I'll give you a couple of minutes there.
It's got to come up.
Okay, it's coming up right now. Okay. It's going to come up the, give it a couple of minutes here. Blah, 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 blah. It's a musical comedy directed with the book by Charles Carter Bean with music and lyrics from Jeff Lynne and John Farr. Now, John Farr, as you know, was the longtime songwriter and producer for Olivia Newton-John. It was, of course, based on the movie that we're talking about. It was inspired by the 1947 Rita Hayworth movie Down to Earth. And the title refers to Xanadu, the site of the Mongolian Empire. Kublai, what's his name? Blai, Khan's Summer Palace. The musical opened up on Broadway in 2007 and ran over 500 performances. It earned an Outer Critics Circle Award for Best Musical and a Drama Desk Award for Best Book. It was also nominated for Tony Awards for Best Musical, Best Book. The U.S. tour officially begun on December 15th of 2009 at the Segerstrom Performing Arts Center. And while that is being mentioned, let's keep in mind that the movie Xanadu helped give birth to the Razzies, which gives awards to the worst movie, the worst performance, the worst soundtrack. Those sort of maybe if anybody remembers the Razzies, remember the movie Xanadu. It's helped inspire that. When you think about it, there.
And I bet it won them all except for the soundtrack.
Yeah, probably is as well there. A kind of funny thing about the Razzies, no Hollywood star ever showed up for that award except for one. Her name was Sybil Danning. She did a lot of action. She was supposed to show up, but she was doing another cheesy movie called Jungle Warriors around that time, and that was back in the 1980s. Now, Sybil Danning was an action actress. She did a lot of action movies there. She did this movie called with Wendy O. Williams called, I guess, was it called Prison Babes or something like that there. I'm not too sure. You got to look it up there. Now,
yeah, and I don't think there was a movie she ever did that she wasn't topless in.
Yeah, it's true there. Wendy O. Williams, that's true there. Well, at that time, Wendy O. was like this bulk, nettle, powerful woman there, whereas the Mohawk punk rock princess she was back then ceased to exist.
Yeah.
All right, there. Now, what all I can really say about Xanadu is that just listen to the music. That's all we can really say, because if the movie doesn't put you into sleep, we don't know what will. Or if the special effects and everything is going to be like, it's going to keep you awake, wondering, what are you going to show us this time? Because I remember.
Yeah, and don't listen to the soundtrack. Don't listen to the soundtrack and think to yourself, "Oh, I got to see this movie." Listen to the soundtrack, enjoy it, and say, I'll skip the movie.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what everybody else did that year in 1980 did, obviously there. Because, it's kind of funny. It's like one of those, the soundtrack for that movie, was like one of those rare occasions where, if a movie tanks, the soundtrack just as well will tank as well. Or if a movie is successful, so will be the soundtrack. But in this case, it was vice versa. It's gosh. Oh gosh, there. All I can really say is, whoever came up with that idea, to I guess, some goofball probably figured, hey, let's keep the Hollywood musical going here. Let's get Olivia Newton-John, after the success she had in the movie Grease. Okay, let me see if I can. That's how they usually planned it at times there. Now, the musical was first given to a workshop production at Backer's audition at the Minetta Lane Theater in Greenwich Village, New York City, in January 2007, featuring performances by Cheyenne Jackson, Tony Roberts, and Jane Karowski, I guess it is. Readings of the stage version have previously been held on April 21st and August the 3rd in 2006 at New World Stages in Manhattan. And now the two were later, Kowalski and Jackson were cast in their respective leading roles of Cleo, Kira, and Sonny Malone for the Broadway one. But both eventually dropped out. Jane cited her TV shooting schedule on the TV show 30 Rock on NBC, while Jackson cited post-production commitments for his film Hysteria. And it began previews on Broadway in 2007, May of that year, at the Helen Hayes Theater, and it opened on July 7th of that same year. The production was directed by Christopher Ashley and choreographed by Don Kinney. It's spelled Knecchtges. I cannot pronounce that name.
I have no idea.
Neither do I. With sets by David Gallo, lighting by Hal Binkley, costumes by David Zinn, blah, 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 sound by this, key producers were this person, that person. And of course, had an amount of roller skating, like the movie, for Kira and Sonny. And the set extended over the orchestra pit, partly over to the audience. The show presented partially in the round, with some audience members seated on benches on the stage. Like several other recent Broadway shows, a small cast was used, and the relatively short show, 90, which was 90 minutes, was played without intermission. Now, a guy named James Capari Nieto was cast as Sonny and played the role during May and June previews. The actor, however, injured his foot roller skating during a rehearsal, and I guess Curtis Halbrook came in and took his place for the time being until Caponetto was, I guess, let's see here, blah, blah, blah. He altered as the replacement. Cheyenne Jackson assumed the role in June 21st, 2007. Now, the opening line, featured Sonny Malone, Kerry Butler, and Tony Roberts as Danny McGuire, Jackie Hoffman and Mary Tesla as evil Muse sisters play a part of the twist introduced by the Broadway version. Libby Newton-John starred the movie, and composer John Farr attended the opening night and joined the cast on stage during the curtain call. Now, Whoopi Goldberg will play Sid Hoffman for a 6-week run on July 28th, and the production closed in 2008 after 49 previews and 513 performances. So there you go. Wow. Now, I think we pretty much said what we said about this movie here. It was a bomb. It was a terrible movie. Soundtrack was different totally. And the only thing I can really say is, after watching the movie myself on that Showtime network back in '82 there, when we was getting cable television for the first time, all I can really say is, geez, they could have came up with a better script, a better idea, better effects, but I got to remember, the special effects at that time was kind of premature compared to the CGI, the techniques that we have, the computer graphics that we got nowadays, almost every movie, where it's sci-fi, action, whichever there, whether it's Star Wars, A Man of Steel, or some cliffhanger movie there. But you know what? All I can really say is, that's how it was back then. That's all we can say. Now, I'm sure somebody out there on YouTube could probably get a CGI studio on their computer and could probably touch up the movie a little bit there, but that has yet to remains to be seen so far there.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess this closes out our episode of Movie Madness here. I guess. Because there's really not much to talk about this movie there. And like we said,
I don't know what else we can say.
Exactly. Just all you can say really all together is just buy the soundtrack if it's available on vinyl. Don't watch it. Exactly. Just go for the soundtrack alone and let it go at that there. Believe me, you will not be disappointed. All right there. All right, I guess that closes out our episode of Movie Madness. And which movie are we going to be talking about next week there?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to review the list for Riff Tracks and Mystery Science Theater and probably pick one of those.
Okay,
and then I'll send you a quick email.
No, yeah, just send me some suggestions. Give me something to talk about, because we already talked about Heaven's Gate in the past. And we talked about the Godzilla
Right.
franchise and everything else there. We discussed Star Wars and
Ray Harryhausen.
yep, exactly. Credit to him. So I guess I don't know why YR left. I guess he left to check out the movie for himself, or got occupied with something there. But hopefully we'll have him next week for Music Maniacs as we continue with our look for the 1980s music world there, as I keep saying in the promo videos for my channel. And before we go,
Right.
I'm going to plug ARC's Patreon once again. Go to patreon.com/Arknolia, and you'll get tons of content discussing movies, music, television, sports events, pro wrestling, you name it, You know, select whichever tier suits your need there or what you want, and help my boy Arknolia out there, he's a good guy. He deserves a lot of credit. Definitely support this cat here to the full max. Also, subscribe to his channel just as well. He's on YouTube just as well. And also subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification buttons for both our channels as well as the like buttons. And for Ark and myself and YR, who left earlier there, we will see you next Wednesday for a new edition